I want to talk about my favorite party game of all time and how it got me into video making. Developed by Super Joe Bob and published by Adult Swim Games, Duck Game's a comedic 2D platformer shooter with a focus on multiplayer. First released in 2014 on the Ouya, yeah, the Ouya, an interview from The Edge reveals that he met one of the co-founders of the failed console at PAX. Later on, the dev threw Duck Game onto the Ouya, showed it to that person, and he helped to fund the game. You know, the Ouya got a lot of flack for legit reasons and was mocked by basically the rest of the gaming industry, though after doing some research I actually feel pretty bad about how things turned out, because it sounded like some of them genuinely really cared about indie games and helped to push some developers into making their games into reality. Obviously there were legitimate reasons for why it failed, but at least Duck Game rose from the ashes of the Ouya and was put onto Steam in 2015. The game starts off in this lobby area with the basic controls shown behind the little duck that you control. This functions as a sneaky tutorial as you're forced to learn to jump, pick up items and shoot in order to smash the glass to start playing. While there are faster ways to break the glass to start, every new player is going to do this and learn the absolute basics of Duck Game quickly, which is extremely important for a party game like this. You can also select a hat to customize your duck to your liking with a range of cosmetics from cool shades, crocodile heads, or even custom hats which can be imported into the game and used online. Jumping into the center gives you the option for multiplayer or the single player arcade. While I will go into a bit of detail about Duck Game solo content later, multiplayer is clearly the focus of the game, so I'll start with that. The goal of every round is to be the last one standing through blasting other players with a unique variety of weapons, from swords to neck guns, or using the environment to your advantage like flipping over tables for cover or bursting oil barrels to create a fiery hazard, or get really cheeky by throwing your friends off of the map or bopping their head with a totally calculated box throw.
Bruh.
Mind control them to make them jump into spikes, spray and pray with a minigun, fling yourself around the map with a sledgehammer, grenades, rockets, trumpets? There's a lot. What I'm trying to get at is that Duck Game does a lot with its simple controls, since every action and item in the game can be used in a staggering amount of ways, which can lead to some genuinely hilarious or unexpected situations and a surprisingly high skill ceiling for what it is. I will be spending a large amount of time going incredibly in depth about small details, because I want to figure out how and why Duck Game works as well as it does. It's a deceptively simple game which makes it approachable to newcomers, but there's a hidden amount of depth that has kept me playing for nearly 100 hours and loving it every time. While the levels can sometimes spawn you in unfair locations such as placing you next to someone who's closer to a gun, there's always a variety of ways to win. The most obvious being disarming foes with any object. You can throw empty guns or boxes towards people at a high speed by, pressing the pickup button whilst moving in that direction, and if it hits them, they'll throw whatever's in their hands, or I guess the wings, in the direction that they're facing. Pulling this off at close range means that both of you will be scrambling to pick up the gun, which can get incredibly tense or stupid. These stupid and unfair situations due to the level design could have been a major issue if it wasn't for 2 points. One being that it's a party game, so I think having some stupid shit or silliness can actually enhance the experience for everyone, as it keeps each round unpredictable and can prevent higher players from entirely stomping on everyone else. Not saying you can't still do that, but it's a bit harder than you may think. Some of them are actually really fun, as those maps tend to be quick, which leads into 2. Duck Game's ridiculously fast pacing means it's never frustrating to lose, as you'll be back in seconds.
Oh my god.
Everyone dies in one hit, so fights end in a flash. And okay, yeah, there is the armor, which can block one shot, but they actually have accurate hitboxes, so you can shoot under or at their head for an instant kill anyway. Having the durability of a wet noodle means that you'll need to get fancy and creative with the game's movement options to survive more than 2 seconds. You have your basic options, which are sliding, which helps to dodge body height bullets and can be used to get through small gaps. Slowly descend by flapping your wings, which is useful for platforming and is used to pull off one of Duck Game's coolest tricks that I'll talk about very soon. And even the recoil from guns is useful for movement. These three things can be combined together, like for some reason recoil is increased when your character is sliding, so you can use this to get up close with high recoil guns, then blast yourself backwards into safety, or off a cliff. It's usually the second one. You can use this in midair to give yourself a ridiculous amount of speed with the right guns to close a distance between you and the enemy. You can also equip a jetpack, crouch, and jump at the same time to move extremely fast, which I got a lot of mileage and laughs out of.
Please just... Oh my god.
We made up this thing called the suplex, where I always pick up other players, which you could do if you hit them with the net gun, then use the jetpack thing to take myself and the opponent into the death zone. It's really dumb, but even if it'll make me lose, I'm gonna do it every single time.
The ship.
No.
I'm just committed.
So, what about flapping your wings and using the recoil? Oh my god, this leads into the most bonkers fucking thing you can do in the whole game, the diagonal shot. When you glide and hold a gun at the same time, you aim the gun upwards, which is useful for obvious reasons. So, through normal means, you can only shoot sideways and upwards, but not downwards, which makes going into the air really risky. This all changes once you glide with a gun and turn around. For a few frames, the gun will snap downwards, then move back into its default position. You can shoot during these frames and the bullets will go in that direction, which is normally impossible. Yes, you can shoot downwards and the recoil will push you upwards, which can be used to clutch games or style on people. Like, it may not sound that interesting on paper, but this allows players to basically have full control on their movement and aim if mastered. Watching someone pull it off successfully to snipe someone from far away, or get themselves back on stage is so hype. It's like the 360 no-scope of Duck Game. And there's a ton more interesting things you can pull off with the game's controls, but I'll have to stop myself as much as I would love to ramble about it forever. And yes, this game does have a niche competitive scene, and I think that's amazing. Text like this does mean the gap between a new player and an advanced player is quite wide, but the frantic pace and silliness of the game, that means that even new players will have a good time. Though I just went on about how complex and interesting the mechanics are, I actually think Duck Game's greatest strength is how it gives players the tool to be hilarious and pushes players towards being that way through subtle and clever design. Winning isn't the most fun part about the game, it's goofing off and having a laugh that makes for the most memorable matches. The most obvious example of this being the ragdoll and quack buttons. I genuinely believe the game wouldn't be nearly as entertaining as it is without these two features, the quack especially. I'm aware of how ridiculous this sounds, but just stick with me here. Like, the quack is just a funny sound effect, but you can do so much with it. Annoy your friends by spamming it, celebrate by teabagging and quacking at the same time, or fake your death by ragdolling as soon as the game starts and see if anyone actually notices. I know me and Alan have got a lot of funny moments out of that. They're silly features, but amazing at making others smile. Mix this with how the game will zoom into the winner of a round for a few seconds, and you've got a recipe for comedy. The floor is yours, so go do something stupid. Jump into a spike, blow yourself up, or mash that fucking quack key cause you won. It makes the game feel alive. Like, if you couldn't quack, I think the game would sound kind of empty. All this combined with how losing never feels frustrating, and how players never mind about going for self-destructive but hilarious strats like that suplex I mentioned earlier, and my god, it's so fun. Speaking of sound, Duck Game sound effects are great. You can really feel the power of the guns and explosions just due to how crunchy the sound effects are, and there are many silly sound effects like a swear sensor if your duck slips on a banana. The music is real fucking good too. It isn't really something I've paid too much attention to until now, because every time I've played this game is on call where we're all shouting and laughing. But it does set the tone of the game perfectly. The whole soundtrack sounds like it's something from the Sega Mega Drive because all of the music was made in Jenny? Or was it Genny? I don't know, who cares? A virtual instrument the developer made that emulates the console's sound chips, which is really cool and resulted in stuff like this. And the single player is Yeah, it's good. I haven't really put too much time into it, but it is a fun distraction. The arcade has a bunch of missions that puts you into some fun situations, like taking out all the enemies as fast as possible, or obstacle courses that allow you to go nuts with the movement. You get a rank for how well you did, and they're really strict with the ranks, and tickets which can be spent on unlockables, which is neat. I'm happy it exists, and I'm a big fan of the obstacle courses and the ranking system, which really pushes you to master the game, but I mean, you're not really buying it for single player really, though, you know, it's good that it's there. Though Duck Game sorta has progression in multiplayer, as you gain XP and money for finishing rounds, which can be spent on furniture to decorate your little room. I do really enjoy this, as you can do this whilst waiting for friends to get ready, then show it off to them for fun, and it's just cool, man. Customization's great. Every single aspect about Duck Game's multiplayer comes together to create what is easily my favorite party game ever. That isn't hyperbole, I truly believe this. It's literally tradition for us to load it up at New Year's. I can gush about this game forever because no other game has brought out such boisterous laughter or extreme reactions, and that all has to do with just how good the game is. And personally, it's a really important game to me, for the reasons I just talked about, and also because I don't think I would have gotten so interested in video making if it wasn't for Duck Game. It's been, what, nearly 5 years since I made that first Duck Game video when I was 14, back when I used to make funny moments compilations called experience videos. That was the first thing I ever edited in Vegas Pro on this channel, and after making that I realized how much I enjoy doing this type of thing. I've learned a lot in the last 5 years from doing this, and these videos have really helped me to improve as a person as well. I'm more confident socially, the skills learned from making these has opened up really interesting opportunities for me, and I finally have a creative outlet that I can look at and be proud of because, well, I didn't really have anything like that until now. Making these videos rambling about video games is personally really valuable to me, and I wouldn't have taken that first step if it wasn't for Duck Game, or maybe it would have taken me far longer to do so. Those old Duck Game videos are really good time capsules too. I can look back and cringe at my old squeaky voice, or see what my sense of humor was like at the time, or how my editing used to be. All of this is what makes Duck Game special to me. I made one last Duck Game experience video. In the same way that the first one got me to learn how to edit and is a good time capsule, I've made this one to learn how to use a new editing software to push it even further, and just to show off how far I've come since then. I put in an absurd amount of effort and time to get these 2 videos made before I started uni, and I really hope that it was worth it. I hope you'll enjoy, and Landon, cheers to making a cool fucking game, dude. My friends and I love it.